Let's hear from the State Farm Analyst Desk.
Thank you very much. Quick shot. Later on Shocks, we'll hear from Caps, but G2, our second team to lock in a knockout spot behind IG, and they do it with their second win over the Flash Wolves here. This one a bit more competitive than the first time around, but still a solid amount of control showcased by G2.
Yeah, more credit to Flash Wolves for keeping it close for me, because G2 showed me a lot more composure, but Flash Wolves were still in it.
Yeah, I mean, the early moves for Flash Wolves made a lot of sense, right? They were able to get the Dragon, then they actually lane swap up to top side to be able to get the Rift Herald in addition, get some turret plates for Betty, and, they're like, oh, yeah, the steps and the plans are working until they run into Caps Akali with a black shield on him, and it just goes out the window, and Caps just destroys Betty, and then there's all your money that you were trying to funnel.
And I think it then starts in on the draft. Raz, you brought up a really good point that you have Aurelia, you have Akali. Kobe just said it. If you put a black shield on either one of those, there's nothing to stop them from getting into a backline.
Yeah, multifaceted, because in the laning phase, Draven and Morgana into this matchup, it makes it very difficult for Nautilus to ever look for a trade, ever look for an in until Rek'Sai starts to join in, and then you have Sejuani in it. So like that's just better for the G2 bottom side. And then once you start looking at the comp itself, you're like, all right, Morgana, Akali, we saw those few plays happen. Morgana and Aurelia, ultimately, you just have so much space because you have assassins just diving straight into you.
Is it not a little crazy that the blue side team got both Aurelia and Akali?
I mean, you're giving up some things, right? Silas, it was a big exchange, right? And everyone's like, oh my God, the Akali into Silas matchup, that's Silas' favorite now. Well, I guess it's just Cap's favorite as far as that matchup goes, because he makes these adjustments. He takes the Conqueror on the Akali as well, builds into the Leandries for the extra damage ramp, and then we see him solo killing Rather multiple times. So, I mean, it's the fact that G2 have so many of these looks in Champion Select that allow them to come out with things like this. And then once you have those two pieces, Akali and Aurelia, not only the Black Shield, but also Sejuani passive stacks up with both these melee assassins. So you have CC, in addition to be able to deny the enemy CC, and the burst damage is the overwhelming factor.
And the small thing you want to add is really just in G2's composition, the Akali is really the only thing that is contested in first pick. The Aurelia you see going off a lot of times on both sides because contested laning phase when she got her W nerf, so a lot of AP mages could deal with her. Then the mid lane is not so much competitive. The top side of the map, same matchups that people are more willing to take.
Fair enough. But, Kobe, you talked about the early moves that Flash Wolves made and how those were starting to generate something. But for G2, it was all about reacting to that, being in the right place, the right time. And we saw kind of the perfect example of that 13 minutes in, 3 for 1 in favor of G2 on the top side.
I think it was just the confidence also to know that Flash Wolves were going to fight you, and then the G2 immediately challenged them on that. They said, okay, let's double teleport in. We have no problem looking for these skirmishes and for these fights. And while Flash Wolves are a great 5v5 team, inside that 5v5, they are not as strong as G2 in the 1v1s, in the 2v2s, in these shorter skirmishes.
Yeah, who got the kills in those fights for G2? Wondering Caps.
All right, so then let's take a look. As you said, it was all about Caps from that point forward. Once they started rolling, he kept it going with his Akali play.
The primary reason why I have him in my top 5 because he finds himself straight in there. It's so tough for Betty to find any way in when G2 are already there stacking on top of, the Morgana, the Sejuani that's nearby. He's able to find himself in side lanes. I just feel bad for Rather.
I just feel like we've got to get to this point where we've got Faker, Rookie, Caps. I want to see them competing when they're not on Akali. Like, separate Akali from the equation.
Jensen's Akali.
This champion just does things that are disgusting. There is no correct positioning when there is a Fed Akali on the enemy team. You cannot do anything. She will find you.
Why you gotta bring that up?
It was a good Akali.
You're making me sad again, though. Because versus Caps, we had this exact example. And as I kind of was talking about earlier, this is the thing that was making me kind of sad, right? It doesn't feel like our team has the players that are looking for those game-winning plays, right? When people talk about, oh, we can carry from any lane, it's looking for those types of plays where you set up the control ward. Caps is looking for the AD carry past the Nautilus, past the enemy mid laner to go get the game-winning play and pull that out, in these critical moments. It's more of like, all right, we'll group up as team fight, and then, we got to win the team fight.
It's X Factor. That's what it is. And the two teams that are leading the charge right now have multiple X Factor team play or players that will find like these miracles that will change the course of games just on their own play.
Need killer instinct.
I think a lot of it does have to come through the set plays in motion. This game for me was a lot of safety nets there. There was a whole bunch of safety net that if Akali's is jumping right in there, not only is your team setting up right behind you, but of course the Magic Shield. I think that this was incredibly well constructed. To be fair to your point as well, like, yeah, Caps is just that kind of a guy. And if you give him more of a safety net, man, he's jumping even farther.
Yeah, MasterCard player of the game this time around, but I think what we'll look for next is for Caps to have one of these kinds of performances against a team above him. I'm looking at that rookie matchup to see if he can maybe, shirk World Finals, shirk the first time around here in group stage. And let's put up some numbers.
That's one that has not gone so well for me.
Not so much. Let's hand it over to Shocks, though, who has an interview with our MasterCard player of the game.
Thank you very much indeed here with Caps, who went off on Akali versus the Flash Wolves. Caps, just like in game one versus the Flash Wolves, a bit of a rough early game. Why do you think you match up against them maybe a bit worse in the early game?
I think we went for a draft that I didn't have the strongest early game. At least mid jungle was not the strongest, and I also kind of went really deep and died. So that kind of made us go, okay, we have to just play safe, and then once we get our items, then we can actually fight.
However, you still did fine further on in the game, the Akali versus Sylas matchup. You played both ends and you both won. What's harder and why?
So we're just trying out different things, right? I think the other game we tried first pick Sylas, now trying first pick Akali, just trying out matchups. Not really sure what's the best right now, but that's why we're trying it out. So we're ready for playoffs and know basically everything we need to.
But for you, you can win them all, or whatever side of the matchup.
I think every matchup has not every matchup, but most matchups have some way to win it, right? And then as long as you fight when you're strong and you don't fight when your enemy is strong, then you can win your matchups.
Yeah, that's pretty basically Legends, but that's the way it goes indeed. Now you guys are locked in the knockout stage of MSI, so congratulations for that. When you look at the teams that you are still playing, that you have seen played, how do you think everything's going to work out? Where are you going to end up, and who's going to join you, and who might you play in the semifinals? I know it's a lot.
As it looks right now, it looks like IG first, us second, and SKT third. Obviously, we still want to fight for the first seed, but I think IG have to lose to us and another team. So we're hoping for that. But as it looks, probably going to be IG picking whichever Flash Wolves or TL makes it, and then us against SKT in semis. I would assume it's going to end. But it's MSI, you never know what's going to happen. So I'm just going to try to win our games and stay focused on the goal.
Speaking about winning your games, IG rematch is up next. We talk about this matchup so often. It's sometimes gone your way, sometimes it hasn't. How's the mental feeling before that important game?
I think just LPL in general, honestly. I lost so many games to RNG before, and now I'm losing so many games to IG. I think at some point, I hope that we can find some way to beat them, and we're just going to try out different ways. Now we get one more game to play them. If we're lucky, we get another best of 5 in playoffs, and then maybe even at Worlds, right? And we're just going to keep fighting until we find a way to beat them.
Okay, fantastic. I hope it's today. Well, congratulations, Caps and G2 locked in the next round. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Team Liquid is up on the docket versus Punk Blue Buffalo. Don't go anywhere.